Hi guys, welcome back to a new video. So today I want to share with you how we can rebuild Elementor's Take Your Productivity Sky High carousel widget that they're using on their homepage. So thank you to Jesus for sending this one in. It gave me something to do on a rainy Sunday afternoon here in the UK. And this one is a bit of an interesting case actually, because it looks like a typical carousel widget with some offset slides going on here. But I've realised after doing some digging, you can only set offset slides on a carousel widget that's set to infinite. So this one obviously isn't, because it has a start and an end. And I'll just show you that here. This is a carousel widget. Once infinite scroll is turned on, we can then set the offset slides here. If I turn it back off, that option disappears. So it got me wondering, how have they done this? And on top of that, when you scroll to the right here, if you click right, you can then see the slide still visible on the left. So it goes beyond its starting point, sort of into the dead space, and it's still visible. And they've got their carousel widget set to their content width, which is 1280. So yeah, there's some funky stuff going on here. And basically, I've figured out by using inspect that they've done a little cheeky CSS trick here to get this working. So what we've done is we've put a normal carousel widget in here, but they've set the overflow to visible. So by doing this, if I switch this off, you'll see this slide here disappears on the right. If I switch it back, and as well as this, if I move now, you won't see any slides on the left. Whereas if I switch this back on, the slides are now visible. So can you see how switching that on and off, the effect that has? So yeah, that's how they've achieved this result, which means today I can share with you how to build this fully and what other techniques they've used elsewhere. So first thing I'm going to do, guys, is set up the main parent container. So I'm going to stick a container in here. I'm going to set the background type to a solid color, which will be light gray because that's the same color as their background. And then within layout, this is going to be set to horizontal. We're going to leave it as boxed. Their boxed width is 1280, so I'm going to set that up here. We're going to set gaps to 0, because again, that's what they've set. I've seen it when I've inspected the code. We're going to set wrap to on, and then I think that's everything in this section, except additional options. This is important. We need to set it to hidden, because when we make the slides visible on the carousel, they'll spill out of the parent container, so we need to set this to hidden. So on top of that, we need to go into advanced, and the padding we've got set up on the left and right is 40 pixel for desktop. So I'm going to set that. I'm also going to add a bit to the top and bottom just to space this out. But they haven't got this, but this is just because I'm just building this in one container rather than on a full page. They also only use the breakpoints of tablet, portrait and mobile as well. And on tablet portrait, the left and right padding is 32 pixel. And then I'm just going to put my top and bottom back in. And then again on mobile, I'm going to add padding, this time of 24 pixel, left and right. And then 150 top and bottom. Mobile behaves a little bit differently as well. So here I'm just going to make sure the width is 100%. So that's the main parent container setup. So now elements to go in this, we've got our heading. So I'll go and add a heading. And here I'll go back to the website and I'll just copy the text in. There we go. They've set this to a H3. And then within styling, I'm going to set globally, I've created a carousel title font, which matches their font. I'll go back to desktop. And then the text color, theirs is just black. So this is the container now set with the heading within it. So now we can add our carousel widget. So it's just a normal carousel widget. So it's this one here, carousel. First thing to do here is delete slide 2 and 3, because we'll just duplicate slide 1 once we've done one. And then we want to set slides on display to 3 for desktop. Tablet and mobile, the default to 2 and 1, which is what we want, so we don't need to change that. Leave equal height set to on. And then within settings, turn off autoplay and infinite scroll. Leave transition duration as 500 and direction as left. Within navigation, Elementor have set up some custom SVGs here, arrows in circles. So I've downloaded these. So our previous icon will be this one. And our next icon here will be this one. Position wise, they're both in the top right hand corner of the carousel. So that equates to a horizontal orientation of end and a vertical orientation of start. So that's the same for both the previous and next arrow. So end and start. And then position wise, pixels, we want -64 for horizontal and -42 for vertical. And I know this because I've inspected in the code. So these are the exact pixel dimensions that you need. And then for the next arrow, it's just -42 on the vertical orientation. You can leave the horizontal set to 0. Pagination we'll leave as set to dots because we use dots on mobile. So I'll come to that when we're doing mobile screen. Gaps between slides, we want 40 pixel for desktop and 32 pixel for tablet. So these values match the padding left and right of the parent container. For mobile, we'll leave that for now because it gets a bit interesting there. So I'll come back to that one. So going back to desktop, we'll leave everything else as blank. And then it's just navigation. We need to set the icons as 48 pixels and the color to transparent. And then again, we can leave everything else as blank. Leave pagination as is. We'll come back to this when we're setting up mobile. The final thing to do is in advanced, we want a 52 pixel gap between the title and the carousel. So we'll add 52 pixel. And then for tablet portrait, it's 40 pixel. And then for mobile, that gap goes to 32 pixel. So that's your main carousel widget setup. Now we want to go into slides. We've obviously only got one slide, so we want to set slide 1 to full width. So once we've set that, we can now start adding our widgets. And it seems like within the carousel and Elementor, there's a few widgets here, like the image, the title, and the text editor, so the description there. But this is actually all just one widget. And I've realized this just from inspecting the code that they've just used the call to action widget. So it's this widget here, call to action. So we'll put that in, and you can see here how it's got the image and the heading, the title and the text description and the button. We don't actually need the button, so we can just delete that. But what it uses is a classic skin by default. And that gives you an image to put into the top here. We don't need this image because we don't need this effect. And by putting the image in here, if we put this image as this image here, we'd have to manually set the height of the image, which we don't want to do. We want it to just default to its full size. So we're going to ignore this image section here and just delete this. What we do want to use is an image within the content. So we're going to add the image here. So what I've done is I've downloaded all the images from the carousel. So the first one here about AI containers, I'll add now. So it's this image here, and then we want that to be full size. Next, the heading and the description, I've just got them in a notepad so I can copy them in. The heading set to H4 and the description here we'll leave as a div. Button we don't want, so we'll delete that, and there's no link obviously associated with the button. And then the ribbon, we can leave that as well. So now we've finished on the content tab, we can go to style. We can leave the height set to blank because we've added the image here rather than in here, which means we don't manually have to add a height. Alignment we'll set to left, and we'll set the padding as 0. We can leave width and height here. Graphic element will want spacing of 16 pixel below it here, and we'll want a border radius of 8. Content wise, we'll want, I've set up global fonts for these, so I've got CTA title here. So what I can do is add the global font and color settings to the screen now, so you can pause the video and copy them if you want. So CTA title, and then we'll want a space in here of 12 pixels. Description, I've set up a global font for CTA description. Background color, we'll want to set that as transparent, and then title color, I've got near black global font here. So we'll set that as title color and description color. Hover effects, we don't actually need these, so we can just turn these off. And then that's the full styling done for the call to action. We don't need anything going on in advanced here. And now we can just duplicate slide 1 5 times so that we can have each slide complete. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can't see it at the moment, but I'll publish this. And now you can see here, we've got our slides populated and our navigation buttons here working. But what we haven't got is the visibility on the left and right. So what I'll do now is I'll just populate these with the correct images and text. Right guys, so I've populated all the images and text now. So these are all done. So it's all working. One thing I did forget to do was set these to transparent on hover. So I have just set that in here on carousel style, navigation, hover. This here I've now set to transparent, which is accurate to what Elementor have it as. But yeah, this is now working. The only difference is we need our slides showing on the left and right. So this is where the funky bit of code comes in, which I'll include in this code pen in the description. So this is it here. This is what's making it work on Elementor. We've got the overflow set to visible. They've also got some text wraps set up as balance and pretty on the title and description. So that's not functional, nothing functional going on here. That's just for styling preference. This is the really important part. These two here as well also set that the swiper button is not visible on mobile. So that's the previous and next buttons aren't visible on mobile. And the pagination, so the little dots at the bottom, are only visible on mobile. So this is all the code you'll need to get it exactly the same as Elementor. So what we'll have to do is copy that in to the carousel widget custom CSS down here. So if I paste this in and now publish, and if this edit screen, by the way, is looking a bit messy, just refresh your page once you've published it and it should load in correctly. So now we can see on the front end, the carousel working as expected. And you can't see the pagination buttons. You can see the slides visible on the left and right on scroll. The last thing to do is just a little bit on mobile. So on mobile, on Elementor's website, if we inspect and have a look here, you can see, for starters, the pagination buttons are a little bit bigger than default. So we'll do that first. But also, they have created an offset here. So that's interesting how we've done that, because we know that we can't offset the slides. So what we've done is we've used some margin on the call to action widgets, and then we've edited the gap between the slides to be a negative. So I'll show you all that now just to finish this off. So if we go to mobile settings, carousel, first up we'll do the pagination. What we want is we want the size set to 8, so I've already put it in, and then the spacing set to 24, and that will get the pagination, there you go, exactly the same as what it is on Elementor's website. And then the final thing to do is to make sure that these don't fill up the full width of the screen, like we do on Elementor's website. We fill up most of it. We need to add 80 pixels margin right to each call to action. So that will push it to the left slightly and make it not full width. So what I'll do is I'll just copy and paste the style for each of these call to actions, which means they'll all have a margin right of 80. So if I just click one. So yeah, they've all got that 80 pixel space. But now that space is too large. So we want to pull each call to action, each slide rather, into the next one or the previous one. So to do that, we change the gap between slides to a negative. So 80 pixel, if we minus 40 is it 48 pixels? We'll then get a 32 pixel gap between each slide, and it'll appear as if the slides are now offset on the page for mobile. So there we go. That's how we get the effect working on mobile. So yeah, you can just scroll through these now on mobile size, and you can see they're all offset just as they are on Elementor's website, and everything else is working as it should on desktop as well. Still visible left and right. So yeah, thanks for the suggestion, Jesus. That was a fun little challenge. And once you have built something like this, I would suggest saving it as a template. So right click on your container, save as a template, and you can select cloud templates. And then what that'll mean is it's accessible on whatever websites you are building if you have your Elementor account connected up. So yeah, I hope that helps, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.